Alrighty, so today is all about apps, and apps provide a great way to help you integrate with additional systems within your marketing stack, your ecosystem, and in many ways they can help automate the process a little bit further and just save you some time and potentially streamline that customer experience that we're always striving so hard for. So I hope you like the image for this month. I just thought that was a pretty magical looking experience, and love the rainbow as well hanging over the top there. So canoeing, I assume that's probably in Canada somewhere. So it's a pretty beautiful location. Let's get into it and get started. So for those who may be joining us for the first time, my name is Derek Bell. I'm the Customer Success and Marketing Director at Marketing Cube, and absolute delight of mine is to run this user group each month, which I couldn't do without Jason, our account director, who is on the end of the line as well. And Jason will manage the chat function for you. So if you do have specific questions as we go through the webinar, please use the Zoom chat function to have a chat with Jason, and he'll be able to answer your questions, and then we can potentially share some of those questions with the group as we move through the webinar. So what's on the agenda for today? So we have 3 specific points we wanted to share with you, and point number 4 will be release information, which was just made available last week for 19C, which is due in the middle of August. We've got some exact dates for you, and we'll share those with you shortly. But the first thing that we wanted to do is answer a few questions from some customers. And these questions were quite good this month. Well, they're always good, but let's dive into those. So the first question came from Kath here in Sydney, and Kath has a question in relation to how she can potentially use custom data objects to help with a particular challenge that they have in relation to a particular audience that they have within their team. So is there a way to use a step in the canvas to update a field in a custom data object or for a contact field? Or is this something that programs are for? For example, a field in our alumni custom data object that is a yes/no as to whether they have been invited to join and the date they were invited. Our custom data object syncs back to our CRM. So we wanted the information there, and that's from Kath in Sydney. So Kath, absolutely, there is a way that you can do that, and the potentially many solutions, but one solution would be to use data tools. So data tools offer you a range of different functions to do lots of different things. So I've just shown you there on the screen, you can see how to access data tools. So it's through the contact object down to tools, and then you can see data tools are highlighted there. So this particular section of Eloqua enables you to produce deduplication and validation rules to help you improve the quality and accuracy of the data that you've got within the platform. So essentially, the way that works is once you get into the data tools area, you select a different type of rule that you want to do. And I should emphasize there's quite a bit of information in the Help Center as well. So if you access the Help Center, just using the keyword data tools, you'll find loads of information in there as well. So once you get in, the key thing that you would want to do for Kath in your specific example would be to select an update action, and the specific update action that you would want, it would be to set to a value, which in your instance would be either a yes or a no, or maybe more specifically a Y or an N. So that's one solution that would enable you to do that. Of course, with any of these types of questions or areas of Eloqua that you're probably not going to use every day, if you do need a hand, please contact the Marketing Cube support team. They can assist you with setting those things up as well and walk you through how that's done so you've got an understanding. So hopefully, Kath, that answers your question. And I can see you're online, so hopefully that answers your question. The other question came from Casey Ann in, and Casey Ann, I apologize. I realize I've just left an E off Ann, so I apologize. That's my typo. So Casey Ann's question is in relation to unsubscribed data and how that works. Now, the vast majority of the reports, and I want to say almost all of the reports that you look at in Eloqua where you see unsubscribe information, it very often relates just simply to global unsubscribe. In order to really get a level of insight around email group unsubscription, I find the easiest way to do that is to create a segment. So I just have an ongoing segment that I use, which has each of the different email groups in it. And then I can just simply adjust the filter on the date range. Or if I wanted to be specific, I could say people who are in this campaign and have unsubscribed from this email group. And it will then give me that particular group of people. So it often depends how you want to come at this information as well. So if you wanted to come at the information understanding the amount of unsubscribes that occurred as a result of a campaign, well, you can go into the campaign analysis overview report, and that will show you that information. And you've pointed that out, that that's one of the areas you go to. But what you need to do here, from what you've outlined, is to then understand individually who. Now, you can get down to the who level through that report, but it's only going to give you the globally unsubscribed individuals. So if you wanted to look at the individuals in detail from an email group level unsubscribe, in that case, you would need to go to a segment. But just as a reminder, when you're on the campaign canvas, you've got the ability to access a range of reports, specifically the campaign analysis report that's available here on the right-hand side of the canvas. So from that point, you can access that report. It will show you the standard metrics that you're familiar with, and the number that's next to unsubscribes you can then click on, which will then show you the who. So that is the individuals by name that globally unsubscribed as a result of that particular campaign. But again, if you wanted to look at email group level unsubscription, I find the easiest way, as I said, is just to have a segment built and saved. It's got all of your email groups in it, and then you can just modify it based on an individual campaign to then understand who within a particular time frame or within a particular campaign has unsubscribed. Now, that information is also displayed on the contact, but of course you need to know who those people are in order to view the contact. So it's kind of a mix of two things, I suppose. So for example, when you look at this particular contact, whom I have made anonymous so as to protect her identity, you can see the sequence here. This is showing all activity. So we sent out a email. You can see the email open and send there for the prospect not subscribed. So this was one of our important update emails. So these are people we know are using Eloqua. They've opted in to communicate with us, but hadn't specifically subscribed to the important update subscription. So that didn't cut it for us. Unfortunately, she's like, no, forget it. I don't want to hear from you ever again. Hey, that happens. That's fine. We've got thousands of others of people we're talking to just like you. So that's fine, her loss. So you can see right now it just says 5 days ago, and I did notice in your request, KCN, you did ask specifically about what time. And you'll notice once the information gets to be 7 days old, then you'll get the specific date and time information, which you can see there. It goes from 5 days, 6 days, I think it goes to 7 days, and then after the 8th day, it then drops in and gives you the specific date and time. And here you'll be able to see in sequence the email sends, which have been opened, and then the form submission to unsubscribe. In our case, that's because we're using our purpose-built preference center to capture that information. And so that shows here as a form submission under live preference center. So hopefully that helps point you in the right direction. But I think the quick answer, if it's at an email group level, is going to be for you to create a segment that you just access on a regular basis. That segment would never be intended to go onto a campaign canvas. It's just something that you can access to look at from an interest point of view as to what's happening with each individual campaign. So a question from Kath, she says, can that update rule be added to the canvas? Now, Kath, I'm going to have to be honest and tell you I'm not 100% clear on that. I might handball that question over to guys in the office. Maybe they can run upstairs and ask Emmanuel. Emmanuel will know. I shot your question to Emmanuel, Kath, and asked him to help with that response. So, Jason, if you felt so inclined, if you could maybe get an answer to that question for us before the webinar finishes, that would be great. All right, let's progress on. Today's all about apps, so let's understand how apps work. The first thing to, I suppose, understand about apps is that there are many of them available. There are hundreds of apps available. Many of those are free. Some of those come at a cost, but we wanted to walk you through 3 today. But before we do that, I just wanted to help you understand what they do and how they work. And I've said here that generally apps are only helpful when you have a business problem. It's when you come across a process or something that you can't quite find a solution to, or you have a manual process that you're doing today that's kind of being painful and you think there's got to be a better way to do this. That's often when we turn to apps. So part of the thought process behind today is to at least expose you to some of the apps that are available. So at least if you're aware that there are a range of different apps available, it might be in your thought process to think, hang on a second, let's go and have a look and see if we can find an app that might be able to help with that particular business problem. So where do apps live? Apps live in the cloud, like everything lives in the cloud these days. But essentially, the app cloud allows you to integrate with various external systems when creating emails, campaigns, and landing pages. And they perform a range of different functions, essentially. So you might use an app on the campaign canvas, you might use an app on the landing page or email editor. There are a range of different ways that you might use those apps. So there's an App Cloud Marketplace, the Oracle App Cloud Marketplace, and I'll show you that in just a few moments. You can also access it from directly within Eloqua. As long as you have admin and API access in the back end of Eloqua under settings, there's a link there from apps directly to the App Cloud store. So you can see them there, but you don't need to do that. There are other ways you can access it. I'll show you those. So let's go through the various services or actions of these various apps. So the first one is a range of action services. So these are things that they do something. So in this example, when contacts flow into an action service, Oracle will make a call out to the external system to tell it to perform a certain action. So we use an example here. There's a Salesforce.com campaign association action. What that lets you do is if someone goes through a particular flow on your campaign canvas, you can associate that individual to a specific campaign within Salesforce. That can be for a range of different things. Often that one's helpful if you're trying to communicate certain behavior to the sales team. And if the sales team are familiar with navigating through Salesforce, in this particular example, they would be able to have some clarity around what a contact is doing most recently. So that's one example. So essentially an action service takes data from Eloqua, sends it out to an external system and gets that external system to perform an action. So that's the action services. The next one are decision services. So decision services basically delegate decision-making to an external system. So we send information out of the system, we have the external system make the decision, and then that can impact the progress of that individual on the campaign canvas. Now here we have, for example, Zoom, which we're experiencing today. So Zoom integration has a decision service that calls out to Zoom to check if a contact is registered for a meeting. We can then bring that information back into Eloqua. This all happens automatically, by the way. Bring it back into Eloqua, and that's what determines the yes/no outcome of that particular decision step. So that's decision services. The other one is audience services. So the audience service acts a lot like a segment created in Eloqua, except the contacts are fed directly into the campaign from an external system. There are different integrations that achieve this. For instance, we'll look at the LinkedIn one, which has an audience service in it in just a few moments. But essentially, if you're trying to get people externally who may not be in Eloqua today, it's the audience services piece that will bring those people into Eloqua, often through a form submission of some sort. And that's how the LinkedIn Campaign Manager app works. And then finally, content services. For email and landing page editors, content services let you include content from external systems into your assets. So other content service providers can provide easy ways for marketers to include links to other systems. So the Oracle Content Marketing Platform would be an example of this. You might have sitting over in your content marketing platform, of which Oracle is just one. There are several different organizations that will provide apps to do this, especially around content. You can bring that content from that external system and have it load automatically into either an email or a landing page. So you can see there those 4 different types of services that basically apps can perform. So this is a screenshot from the Oracle Cloud Marketplace, and the Oracle Cloud Marketplace contains a whole range of apps, not just for Marketing Cloud, but for a whole range of applications from Oracle. So whether you're using Oracle Service Cloud, Oracle Sales Cloud, the Responses product, you can see them on the left-hand side there on a product actually, Oracle Data Management, Oracle Content Management, Oracle Maximizer. So there's a whole range of those products that fall under the Marketing Cloud. And then there's the Sales Cloud and the Service Cloud, and there's lots of clouds. You can just Google that, by the way. If you just simply Google Oracle Cloud Marketplace, you'll arrive at the screen. You can filter down and get to the point where you will see Marketing Cloud, and you can tick the box on the left-hand side there under Product to identify that you're looking just for Eloqua applications. So that's the Cloud Marketplace. And the link from within Eloqua will take you to this exact same page. So you can then search and find and then load applications directly into the platform. Okay, so it looks like Jason has, or someone at the office has gone upstairs, had a chat with Emmanuel, and the answer is for Kath. The answer is yes. So those update rules can be added to the canvas, but the update rule needs to be first created separately using update rules, and then it can be dropped onto the canvas as an action step. So that's a positive outcome for you there, Kath. All right. So we promised to focus on 3 apps today. Why did we choose these 3 apps? We chose LinkedIn because it's fairly popular to start with. It's pretty cool in what it does. It kind of has 2 functions. We'll explain those in just a moment. The other one that we wanted to show you is Motiva AI. Now, we actually have some customers who are using the Motiva product, and I think I've got a screenshot, or I'll show you some testimonials even from those guys at CoreLogic and the experience that they've had with Motiva. And then Zoom, we figured Zoom was a logical one to share because it's what we use. We used to use ReadyTalk as our webinar provider, and that integrated beautifully with Eloqua as well. We chose Zoom, to be really honest. It was largely around pricing. We just found the Zoom pricing far more competitive than ReadyTalk with the same level of integration into Eloqua. So if you've been talking to our support team, some of the guys there will be using Zoom occasionally to share screens with you as well. Let's have a look first of all at LinkedIn and see how LinkedIn works. So this is one of the free apps that are available. It's built by LinkedIn in concert with Oracle, but LinkedIn is the provider of this particular app. And it's referred to as the LinkedIn Campaign Manager. And it really has 2 functions, but really what it's enabling you to do is to automate the process of getting data from your LinkedIn campaigns into Eloqua. And one of the more popular pieces of that app is the lead gen forms component. So the lead gen forms component enables you to essentially run a campaign in LinkedIn. The scenario there being that you provide the LinkedIn person with an experience where they don't have to leave the platform. So they can stay within LinkedIn. They're in an environment where they feel safe. If you're a known entity, look, that's fine. They can probably click on a link and go out to a landing page and you've got hosted in Eloqua. But if you're really doing some prospecting and these are people who may not know your brand, but are comfortable staying within the LinkedIn environment and sharing their information, they can use their LinkedIn profile to complete the form. One thing I would have you think about, though, is often for many of the people on the phone or on the call today, is you're often looking for work email addresses and not personal email addresses. Now, most of us will use our personal email address for our LinkedIn profile. So what you can do there is just control that experience. So if they use their profile to pre-populate the form, you can ensure that you don't use the email address associated with their LinkedIn profile and provide them with a blank field where they need to type in their email address. And you may even want to prompt it by saying, your work email address, something like that. Of course, you can't control what they enter, but you can at least prompt them so you can get the right sort of data that you need to communicate with them in a work context. The other side of the LinkedIn Campaign Manager app is matched audiences. And you can see there that that one really allows you to send contacts directly from Eloqua campaigns to LinkedIn. And that's one way you're able to do your retargeting and also present people with relevant ads as well. So 2 pieces to the LinkedIn Campaign Manager app, matched audiences and lead gen forms. So the lead gen forms, we've had a number of customers using that particular product. This is just a very basic screenshot to give you an idea as to how that would work in Eloqua. You can see the lead gen forms take the form of a segment, essentially. That's how people would fill in the form within LinkedIn, complete those details, and they then automatically come into Eloqua where you can then send them an email with the information that you were offering them when they were in LinkedIn. And then if you wanted to go a little bit further through, you can look to see if they clicked on the email or responded. If not, then we can potentially engage the LinkedIn matched audience piece as well. So of course, the application that we're using, the Campaign Manager application, enables you to bring those two things together. They're free of charge to do. You still obviously need to pay LinkedIn for your advertisements, unfortunately, and obviously you're already a subscriber to Eloqua. But the actual app that enables you to do the connection is free of charge. Any questions on the LinkedIn Campaign Manager app? Again, we've got Jason fielding questions there. Looks like Kath. Thank you, Kath. Awesome. That will be very helpful. Awesome news. That's great. All righty. Let's jump on to the next one then, which is Motiva. Now, I need to put a disclaimer up here. I'm a little familiar with the Motiva product, and the guys at Motiva were fantastic. We reached out to them last week to let them know we'd like to tell you guys about their product and kind of what it does, largely because we do have a couple of clients using the product. And so it makes sense for us to share that one with you. But I'm not hugely familiar with the product. But thank you to the team at Motiva. They did send through some great slides, which I think are reasonably self-explanatory. And hopefully I can just give you enough information today to be like, wow, okay, that's interesting. Maybe we could learn more. And this is partly where I want to use my poll. So we'll see what happens. So Motiva is a paid-for service. It's not a free service. It's doing a lot of incredible stuff. And we'll show you some of that in just a moment. But essentially, it's an adaptive intelligence layer that you can put onto Eloqua to really help optimize campaigns. It really helps you improve your targeting, conversions, segments, and engagement. And the nice thing is, as it says there, it does the whole thing automatically. So their main claim to fame, and you'll see this when you hit their website, I think it's almost integrated with their logo, is that Motiva AI can improve response rates between 10 to 30%. So big call. But we have some testimonials that I'll show you in just a moment, especially for the guys at CoreLogic, about the results they've achieved with Motiva AI. So this is at a glance, just to give you a bit of a feel for what it does. So the multivariate testing and optimization, send time optimization. Now they say here both at a contact and a segment level, which is interesting. So we know send time optimization is coming natively to Eloqua, hopefully within the first quarter of 2020. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. The subject line analysis and generator, I think that one's fascinating. Weak campaigns finder, ooh, that doesn't sound fun, does it? But I suppose we all have weak campaigns. They're there. They're those campaigns that just aren't performing as well as we'd like them to. So it looks like the Motiva AI can help highlight those, which is a perfect candidate for optimization. Also frequency management around global emails, or global email frequency management, optimization, bot detection, which could be interesting, I think, maybe from forms getting hit potentially, segment discovery, audience targeting, and data health dashboard. So I have some screenshots here to give you a little bit of context as to what that might look like. Now, this has been provided again by the team at Motiva, just to give us an idea on the campaign canvas as to what might happen. So it looks like we're doing some testing here, essentially trying to optimize some communications. Then using Motiva, we're making some calls out to understand, it looks like to me, the level of engagement at different areas. And where it's a negative, they're then using the Eloqua shared list construct to sort of park those relevant people into different shared lists. And then I suppose from there, it's kind of the world's your oyster, right? You can go off and do a whole range of different things, look at re-engaging, et cetera, et cetera. Now, the one caveat that I am aware of that's been articulated to me in relation to Motiva is you really need campaign sizes in the vicinity of probably at least around 10,000 contacts. In order for the machine to really do its thinking and its analysis, it really needs a large group of people to play with. So those customers of ours here in Australia who are using Motiva definitely have segments of that size and much higher that they're communicating to on a regular basis, which I imagine is why they've had such success with the Motiva product. Let's show you a few more screenshots. Here they're talking about variation testing, and you can see on the screen here that it'll find the best message for your audience. And this is the whole AI component, which is pretty exciting stuff. In addition to that, this one I thought was really quite interesting. These are screenshots from the Motiva platform. I assume it comes in the form of dashboards that you'd be looking at. And this one I thought was really interesting. So it's looking, obviously, there's been 3 emails sent to do some testing. And the dots represent numbers of people. I don't know if it's 1,000 each or whatever it might be. But you can see the result at 9 a.m. was good, with a little bit of a trickle on with people looking at something maybe at lunchtime at 12 p.m. When you send it at 10 a.m., still a really good result with a little bit more trickling at mid-afternoon and then at home office, I suppose, time at 8 p.m. But interesting, when sent at 11 a.m., the result was reasonably poor, comparatively speaking, to the other two. So that information is quite interesting from a testing point of view, which can then roll into maybe utilizing send time optimization and a whole range of other things. So Kath asked the question, how is this different than the out-of-the-box send time optimization that Eloqua is offering? I suppose, Kath, if you went back to that list, send time optimization is just one function that Motiva offer. There's a whole range of other functions that they're offering. So yeah, I think in the context of what Eloqua is doing with the platform with core functionality, the Motiva team is still offering quite a bit more above and beyond that. Similar information presented here, looking at delivery times, but now specifically around click-through rates. So looking at better times to send things, days of the week, hours, the rates, etc. And it's nice they have it listed as top send hours and worst send hours. So in this example, Wednesday 1 p.m. or Monday 9 a.m., Saturday 9 a.m. I won't be reading work emails on Saturday at 9 a.m., but it kind of gives you a nice view there to understand. And I understand that you can then look at this at an email level, at a campaign level, and kind of overall with what you're doing, but probably importantly also by segment levels as well. So lots of information available there. What I wanted to do now is just quickly show you a little bit in the cloud marketplace. So let me do that. And here it is. So this is the cloud marketplace. So I've kind of come in here. This is just the marketing cloud. And funnily enough, you'll notice that our good friends at Motiva are sitting here on a top rated app. So they've got 8 reviews about the product. And sometimes it's just always easier or better to listen to what people have to say. So let's have a look. And when you scroll in here, it sort of outlines, these are the points that I was showing you earlier. It looks like there's some added GDPR content there as well. So you can read information there. But here are the ratings. And I think the ratings speak volumes. So we can see here, both Richard and Neil from CoreLogic, they've articulated really well exactly what the product has done for them and how it's benefited them. Also talking a little bit about the company, which is nice. So it seems like the folks at Motiva are nice to deal with. That's certainly been my experience. And again, thanks to the team at Motiva for sending through that information for us to share with you. Zoom, essentially, like many different webinar platforms, integrate with Eloqua, and I'll share with you in a few slides some of the other app providers that have integration directly with Eloqua. So essentially what Zoom does, the way I like to look at it is with any of these webinar platforms, it lets you deliver a more branded experience of your own brand versus delivering, say, a Zoom experience or a Cisco experience or a ReadyTalk experience, etc., or WebEx. So it enables you to then use Eloqua to have that whole experience happen, have people experience the Eloqua form, function, all your emails are on brand, etc., and you get to deliver that to people. So let me show you, what it looks like on the campaign canvas. There are always multiple ways you can do things, but essentially when it comes to the user group each month, we use 2 canvases, and it's the landing page and form then that kind of sit in the middle. So the first campaign canvas is all about identifying our audience, who we'll be inviting to attend, and sending those people emails, invitations, and inviting them to go to the landing page to register for the user group. So from the point that they then submit that form, whereas you might normally use the form processing steps to send a confirmation email, you can see here we're actually using the campaign canvas. And the reason for that is that we push people onto the campaign canvas. They then go through the webinar registration process, which is making the call out to Zoom based on the ID for that particular campaign. Then the confirmation email is sent, and then we go through the process of the reminders. So that's the Zoom webinar register function, which is just one of the functions available on the campaign canvas when you add Zoom. And this is much the same, guys, for ReadyTalk, On24, other types of platforms as well. So when you're on the canvas, you double click on the Zoom webinar register icon, and that's the extent of the configuration that you need to do. From Zoom, you just get a webinar ID, you add that here, and you're done. Simple as that. Then this is the same campaign canvas, but we're now down the bottom of the canvas, and this is now what happens after the event. So many of you would have received, I think there's about 32 of you received an SMS reminder today that went through, and then that was telling you that the email had been sent with the link to join us. Then at 3 o'clock this afternoon, we just confirm again who was actually registered. For those that were registered, we then asked the question, did they attend? And so this is another function of the Zoom app, that it now goes off to Zoom. It checks to see whether or not you attended. If you did, you'll go down here and we create an external activity. And that's actually another app. That's an Oracle app that will automatically create the external activity for us. And if you didn't, then you go over here into the no-show and you get a separate shared list, which is no invitation to the Christmas party. So that's where the no-shows go. So thanks for joining us today. We're happy to have you with us. I'm kidding. Yeah, so that's kind of how that works. So pretty simple. What would happen previously is I would have to log into a platform, for instance, download those lists into Excel, work out who attended, who didn't, and then upload those as external activities within Eloqua. So by using the app, I automate that process, which then makes my post-event columns much easier as well. So that's Zoom and how Zoom works. What I wanted to do now was, and I just showed you one actually right there, that's the external activity generator app as well, which is one of the more popular ones. So let's jump in and have a look at some of these. And I've tried to group them a little bit in relation to what they do. So these first four I wanted to show you are kind of around data cleansing and social. So the first one is add this, and you may have noticed we've started using add this on our campaigns. So when you reach most of our landing pages today, you'll see the social sharing icons on the left-hand side of the screen. And so that's the add this for Oracle Eloqua. You can also have that integrate directly with your website too, by the way. So you can use it across all platforms. And there's some really cool reports that when you log into add this, there's some interesting reports there that really help you understand a bit more detail about how content is performing on the website, etc. The contact washing machine is probably one of the most popular apps within the App Store for Eloqua. It does a whole range of things. It can perform mathematical functions. It can move data from one field to another. It can change text to be proper case instead of all uppercase or lowercase. You know, sometimes when people fill in forms, they for some reason have their caps lock on and everything, you know, screaming at people when you email them. So you can take that information and manipulate it via the campaign canvas and also the program canvas as well. There are a couple of ways you can use the contact washing machine. The form submit action can be really quite helpful. Sometimes you want to trigger something that a form is able to do, and you want to use a trigger from the campaign canvas. So you can enable Eloqua to submit that form automatically based on an individual's behavior. And then you have the Oracle Date app. The Date app, different to Compare Date. Compare Date is just a core function within the Eloqua canvas, but the Oracle Date app enables you to interrogate specific dates. So you may have birth date being held or a contract end date, for instance, which is hardwired into the contact or a custom data object. Now, as long as that field is an actual date field, it can't just be a text field that you've written a date into. So it needs to be a date field. You can then use the Oracle Date app to query that and then send people in different directions based on the information that's available. So if you're finding that you need to be able to look at dates on contract expiry or most recently registered, what are those sorts of things, perhaps the Date app could be of assistance to you. Then from a webinar platform point of view, I believe there are a few more, but these are the ones I was able to easily find. And I think we actually have customers using all of these different webinar platforms. On24, I believe, is a fairly new app to the App Store. And I know we certainly have clients who use On24, so that's good news. Then some of the additional apps, this is just sort of to broaden things out a little bit. There's the Oracle Eloqua Engage for Microsoft Outlook. So that's really part of the sales tools scenario. There's the Salesforce.com integration, the Sales Cloud integration. These are two of the newer integration releases or apps from Oracle. If you're using Oracle Service Cloud and you are integrated, it's very likely this is the app that we've used to do that for you. There's Domo integration and also Oracle CPQ. If you're using a CPQ from Oracle, again, that's something that you can use to integrate with Eloqua. So that's just to give you a little bit of a taste as to the types of apps that are available. Some are very CRM oriented, some are very social, some are marketing, as in digital marketing online, all that kind of fun stuff. So a range of different apps there for you to choose from. Now, to show you where you access that information, let's just quickly dive into Eloqua and I will show you. So when you're at the home screen or wherever you are in Eloqua, you can go to settings. Now, the level of information that you see here in the back end of Eloqua will depend on your access levels. So if you're an administrator, you'll be able to see platform extensions and apps, and then you arrive at the App Cloud catalog. And so what you're looking at here are apps that are actually currently installed on your instance of Eloqua. Okay, and then if you, let me take an example. Let's have a look at form submit action. So you've got additional information here. The first one is to understand which of your assets within Eloqua are currently using it. And you can see we've got quite a few using that. You've got the ability to reinstall the application if you need to for whatever reason. You can bin or uninstall the app again if you need to for whatever reason, and also just check connection. So there's a range of functions you've got available there. So clicking back in the top left-hand corner will take you back to the app. So these are three up here, for instance, that we've uninstalled for whatever reason. WebEx must have been testing for a customer, I think. WeChat is another one. That's the add this integration as well. That's the one. So there's a couple of different ways you can play with that. There's a lot of really good information in the Help Center as well. So for instance, if you go to the Help Center, just type in add this. Certainly with the Oracle apps, you'll find a whole range of information in there, but you'll see here, it tells you everything about how to install it, how to use it, adding the service to your landing page, other cloud apps that you can access, etc. Lots of information available there to help. Well, that brings us to what's new and what's coming. And there's lots coming, which is kind of exciting. First of all, let's understand when it's happening. So it's happening in August. We have some specific dates here for you. I was a little bit lazy this month, I apologize. Everything's still in US time, not local Australia, New Zealand or Asia time. But essentially what you're looking at, remember, bless the Americans, try as hard as they may, they're always a day behind us. So what we're looking at is Saturday and Sunday for these various pods to go. So we have a number of Australian clients who are on pod 7. So you can see yours will happen on Sunday. For those who are on pod 1, that will happen on Saturday. I think that works out to be Saturday morning, essentially, or is it mid-afternoon? I can't quite remember. I think it's mid-afternoon, essentially. So hopefully you're doing far more exciting things than working in Eloqua on a Saturday afternoon. But essentially, you'll leave work on Friday and you come back into work on Monday, and all of these new things will be available for you. So the in-app guidance, that has been extended. You might remember on our last user group, or the one before actually, because it was the previous release, we located new in-app guidance for you within the landing page editor and the email editor. So it's that little question mark that slides out from the right-hand side menu when you're in the editor. So that's now been extended to forms and also the campaign canvas. So for those of you that may be newer to Eloqua, just access that information, have a look at it. A lot of it's sourced from, there are videos in there, but it's also sourced from the Help Center. But instead of you having to go to the home screen of the Help Center and kind of work out what it is you need, the idea is that this information is now much more contextual and is right there in front of you in the context of what it is you're doing. So that's helpful. The next one I think is kind of exciting too. So this is now CSS that will automatically render in email and landing page editors, and you can now review hyperlinks without having to check each individual link. Now that's something that was available in the old editors from my recollection, so that's a good thing. So that CSS, just reading through that in a bit more detail in the Release Center, my understanding is when you're looking in the editor itself, landing page or the email editor, the CSS that you've applied will actually be represented in the email that you're looking at right in front of you without the need to have to go to a preview or to actually send yourself a test email. So again, at the moment, for instance, with ours, we have CSS applied, our font is Railway, but in order for me to see that, I need to preview the landing page, for example, in my browser, as you would see it when you register. But moving forward, following 19C, I'll actually be able to look straight there in the editor while I'm editing, and everything will be in Railway font as I'm working away, along with other CSS implications as well. So that's kind of good for us as users. They've also done quite a bit of work on enhancing search functionality within email specifically. And you'll see there that we're going right down to the ability to actually search via subject lines. So if you remember subject lines or keywords from subject lines, you can now use those in your search, and that will return the emails where those are contained. So that's great news. The Salesforce integration app was made generally available, I think, the last release. It was made generally available, and within that 3-month period till August, there's been a lot of work done to make that even better and faster, and so there's more available there. So if you're interested in understanding what that looks like and what that more is, there's information in top liners under the Release Center. If you're not clear, please just drop me a line and I can consolidate that information to help you with that as well. But our support team are also aware they've got that information as well. This is one thing that we were working with a client recently, a new client to Eloqua, and they specifically wanted to be able to send emails from Eloqua that kind of looked a little bit more like they were coming from maybe Outlook versus a marketing type email. And so one of the key things they wanted to be able to do was align everything to the left. Now we're able to achieve that for them with a little bit of coding and stuff to make that happen and then build that into templates. However, that function is now native and you can see it highlighted here. So you won't see this in Eloqua just yet. We need to wait until 19C arrives, but once 19C gets here. So if that's something that you'd like to be able to do, much easier now. Just click a button and you're done. So nice and simple. Also, just updates in relation to the best browsers to be using. Best browsers are always Chrome and Firefox. So Chrome version 75 and Firefox version 68. So those two browsers will give you the best experience while using Eloqua. Okay, so we had provided you with an update last month in relation to forms, and we were told that August was going to be the deadline, so that would have been August, middle of next month. However, it looks like some customers have potentially come back to Oracle and will be like, that's not going to work. We have too many forms and we don't have enough time. And so Oracle have announced that that date has been pushed back till February 2020, which will be release 20A. I would encourage you guys, though, to really start analyzing and looking at those forms. If you need to make changes to them, you can make those changes today. However, once February 2020 comes around, that form will be frozen. So you need to start thinking about that. They'll still continue to function, but you won't be able to make any changes to them. So if you decide you wanted to change a processing step or something like that, you won't be able to do that following February 2020. So just maybe try and move that one to the top of your priority list. And look, realistically, certainly for Australian and New Zealand-based clients, probably want to make that a focus before you leave for Christmas. February will come around very quickly once you get back to work late January. So just something for you to have on the to-do list before the year ends. Alrighty. Well, guys, that brings us to a close. We're actually a little bit early. I'm amazed. So it's 11:53. Thank you so much for joining us. Please, if you do have any questions, simply use the chat function. I'm happy to hang around here for another 10 minutes or so. If you do have any questions, please shoot those through, and I will be more than happy to answer those for you. Thanks again to Jason for helping out, and Emmanuel, who would have got that quick question for Kath. So that's super cool, and we'll see you guys next month. Thank you very much, everybody, and have a great week.